I spent months supporting my sister-in-law during her divorce by being there for her emotional struggles, but she crossed a line by making an advance toward me. When I turned her down, she falsely accused me of harassment at a family gathering, and shockingly, my wife took her side and ended our marriage. I'm still reeling from how quickly everything spiraled out of control and how my spouse could side against me when all I did was try to assist her sister through a tough period. My wife, Sarah, has a younger sister named Emily, who's always been a bit theatrical, but never caused me much concern since she mostly kept to herself, and we only crossed paths at family events where she'd overindulge in wine and vent about her latest romantic troubles. Emily tied the knot about 4 years ago with a man named Greg, who seemed like a solid guy. He had a stable career at an accounting firm and appeared to treat her well, at least from what I observed. But Emily always found fault with him, and Sarah would shrug it off, noting that Emily had a habit of nitpicking everything. Emily would grumble that Greg was always at work, didn't take her to upscale dinners often enough, or spent too many weekends glued to football games, and Sarah would listen patiently before confiding in me that Emily's expectations of marriage were unrealistic. I stayed out of these discussions, figuring it was sibling territory and not my place to weigh in, though I could see Sarah growing weary of being Emily's constant emotional outlet for every minor issue in her relationship. Roughly 8 months ago, Emily called Sarah in tears late at night, around 10:30 p.m., because Greg had announced he wanted a divorce, catching her completely off guard. Sarah and I weren't surprised, as we'd seen signs of trouble in their marriage for some time, especially since Emily frequently shared vague, passive-aggressive posts on social media about feeling unappreciated in her relationship. Sarah would show me these posts, and we'd exchange knowing glances, shaking our heads at Emily's public airing of grievances. Her Instagram was littered with cryptic captions about being undervalued and how some people only realize what they've lost when it's too late, and Sarah would cringe because their entire family could tell Emily was shading Greg. That night, Emily was inconsolable, sobbing that she had nowhere to go since Greg intended to keep their home, and she couldn't support herself on her part-time retail job that barely covered her personal expenses. Emily had always been careless with finances, relying on Greg to handle most of their bills, so the prospect of being financially independent terrified her. She kept wailing about ending up destitute or sleeping in her car. Sarah immediately offered to let Emily stay with us temporarily until she could get her bearings, and I agreed, thinking she just needed a supportive environment during this crisis and that it would likely be short-term. Sarah is deeply tied to her family, and I knew helping her sister would mean a lot to her. So I told her Emily could use our spare room for as long as necessary to stabilize her life. I hoped some distance from Greg might give Emily clarity about what went wrong in her marriage, perhaps even opening a path to reconciliation. But Sarah shared that, based on Emily's accounts, the divorce was inevitable, and Greg had already consulted an attorney. Emily moved in the following weekend with a few bags and endless tears about how Greg had changed the locks, barring her from retrieving her remaining belongings, which struck me as harsh, but I avoided their drama and simply helped carry her things to the guest room, encouraging her to settle in. Sarah took a full week off work to assist Emily in finding an apartment, securing a lawyer, and guiding her through the process, while Emily mostly lounged on our sofa, watching reality TV and sobbing into tissues. I maintained my regular work schedule since someone needed to keep the household running. I can't tell you the full story in short. To watch the full story, click the related link below.